Hello friends, welcome to the Gesundheit Kitchen. My name is Hans Rueffert, and we are doing a series on superfoods. Now, there's lots of lists of superfoods, and we picked one. We picked the Harvard University list of the top 10 superfoods, but that term can be so confusing and it can mean so many things, so we have employed our dear friend Dr. Steinberg to help us kind of navigate this list of superfoods. And today's topic is tomatoes, all sorts of health benefits, and I'm going to let Dr. Steinberg talk to us about those in particular, but I want to really focus on it as an ingredient because to me it's really a superfood in the kitchen, and that they're so versatile, so many things you can do with them, and it's also in my mind one of those nature perfected it. It doesn't need much help. Now, of course, I've used cooked tomatoes in a lot of other episodes that we've done here in the Gesundheit Kitchen. From everything from spaghetti to pizza to you name it, and chili. And cooked tomatoes have a different set of health benefits, but I want to focus today on making a really celebratory simple salad that kind of highlights or elevates the tomato where it should be. It is such a great ingredient, and to do so I have this entire array here of different size, shapes, colors, and each of them have their own kind of unique benefits. And I'm going to put together just a simple tomato and burrata salad. Now, if you haven't had burrata before, it's been around for a long time, but really only available, I'd say, in the last 10 years. Could you find it at your local grocery store? And it essentially is fresh mozzarella cheese. And if you ever had a caprese salad, you know it's that mozzarella basil tomato salad. But this actually has sort of another layer. So they take fresh ricotta cheese and then wrap fresh mozzarella around it. So I'm going to start assembling and doing my slicing and dicing while we check in with Dr. Steinberg, who's going to kind of let us know all of the scientific reasons on why we should be enjoying this amazing food. The next superfood on our list of superfoods is tomatoes, which technically is a fruit, but oftentimes we think of it in sort of being in that vegetable category. But I like to think of it as it can go in either direction. You can take it in a sweet direction mixed with, say, a fruit salsa, or you can bring it savory in a good old-fashioned tomato sauce. But I know, and from talking to you, that there can be different health benefits on raw versus cooked. So let's talk about that.
Absolutely. All tomatoes are very high in lycopene. Now, most people think, the raw must be better in terms of tomato with lycopene levels. In this case, this is sort of the exception to the rule. It's actually higher when you cook the tomatoes as opposed to eating them raw. So lycopene is very good. There's a lot of research on prostate cancer and different types of cancer and the benefit of lycopene, eye health. So if you really want to maximize the lycopene, definitely cook it. But if you don't like cooked tomatoes, still eat them raw. They have great health benefits.
To me, there's nothing better than a homegrown tomato with just a little pinch of sea salt, maybe that drizzle of olive oil.
Perfect.
It is such to me, it's one of those ingredients that you can put in almost anything. I've never tried it on oatmeal, but for the most part, it can go in any direction, and I love it for that reason. It's just one of my go-tos in the kitchen that I brings me great joy. Let's talk about the color. Now, with like we talked about in berries, sometimes darker color means higher antioxidants, same thing?
Definitely different antioxidants. People who, I think a lot of times when we think about tomatoes, we just think of the standard beefsteak tomato or just a tomato for your sandwich, but they have great grape tomatoes, cherry tomatoes, and some of them are yellow, orange, purple. All those different colors suggest and actually indicate that they are different antioxidants depending on the color. So it's a great way to add that to salads, or don't be boring with your tomatoes.
That's exactly right. Well, you eat with your eyes first, so that presentation. And anecdotally, for someone without a stomach, if you have problems with acidity levels, like if a tomato to you is too acidic, some of those lighter color like the yellow are much lower in acid naturally. So you still get that flavor, but without sort of the stuff that might give you that heartburn or the reflux. So it's a good option.
And actually, I don't know about you, but I do love the texture too. There's a slight texture difference to some of the yellows and the oranges, and it just tastes very sweet. They're delicious.
I feel like I need to have like a little tomato. Yeah, I'm brought to you by the Tomato Council. I love them. Superfood. All right, so I'm trying to get these somewhat bite-sized. I mean, if this is a little bit of a messy salad, that's fine too. I think that in celebration, you can see how messy tomatoes are. I think if you don't bite into a tomato and end up with tomato juice and tomato seeds on you, you're not doing it right. So I've got our array of tomatoes here, and you don't have to have this many varieties, but I think it's kind of fun and celebratory, especially since that's our star of the show today. So again, this burrata it's very fragile in that it's kind of got some passengers on the inside in the form of ricotta cheese. So what I'm going to do is kind of pop this open a little bit, and that way it gets some of this kind of impromptu dressing that I'm going to make. I'm going to set both of these on here. And for one person, one of these is plenty, especially, if you don't have a stomach, you can't eat this much. But this is the kind of thing you can put on the table and then everybody kind of share into it like a family-style platter. So again, I'll pop this middle open so it's easy to scoop, and you can see the inside is essentially fresh ricotta cheese. And then I want to put some basil. And this is just from my garden. I've got purple and green basil, really no huge flavor difference. But if you have access to both, it always looks nice to have a little variety there. If you're using fresh basil, sometimes you'll see the flowers on there. Nothing wrong with the flowers, but they tend to be a little bitter. So I pick around them. Again, they are edible, but they're usually not as delicious as the leaves. And oftentimes, if you're growing basil, you'll pinch those off, and that encourages more leaves to come. So nothing wrong with kind of what they call deheading or deadheading the flower stalks, just to get those off of there. So just going to rough chop our basil. You can even tear it if you have big leaves. And this is going to go all around here. Now, big friend of tomatoes is salt, and this is a little salt blend that I make that has a little bit of white pepper and lavender and coriander in there. And speaking of which, I also have this is just white pepper and fennel seeds. And I like that flavor combination, so I'm just going to crack some of that on there. But as you like, I mean, even if you just have salt and pepper is even fine enough for that kind of there's so much flavor going on there. So lastly, I'm going to dress this with a little good olive oil. And this is where you spend the money, right? Is in the good olive oil. This is not the kind of stuff you cook with, but it's delicious. It tastes very green, tastes like an olive. And then to that, I also have some roasted pumpkin seed oil, totally optional, but great flavor profile. It's kind of dark and green, but has a nutty kind of a flavor to it. So I'm just putting a few drops of that around there. And then lastly, a little balsamic. I'm making a mess of myself. But this is a balsamic glaze. So it's a little thicker, it's been reduced a little bit, and it also is kind of a sweet profile to it. And I'm just gonna do a few drops of that, just kind of drizzle that on there. But that is a perfect tomato salad, not only in flavor, but texture. That's a delicious thing. So you're getting the health benefits of the tomato, but also just a really fantastic, memorable kind of spring summer salad. That you always want to make sure it's delicious, otherwise people aren't going to eat it, you're not going to go back to it. But it helps when the main star of this plate is a superfood. And we'll be doing all 10 superfoods in this series, and we hope to have you back right here on gastriccancer.org or on YouTube in the Gesundheit kitchen. So until next time, take care of yourself, and we'll look forward to seeing you next time.